Hi, my name is Sterling, and this is another video in which I'm helping you to learn American English. A lot of students of English often ask, why is it that they can't remember how to put the words together to speak, to express themselves in what they want to say in English, even though they spend countless hours listening to podcasts, watching videos, and they understand English very well? The answer to this question I could summarize in just 3 words. That's not enough. Actually, that's 4 words because it's a contraction, that is. But I got the inspiration to talk about this topic from a video I just watched this morning in Espanol with Espanol con Juan. Juan is a producer of Spanish language learning podcasts, and actually, I'm going to put a link to the video that I got this inspiration from. I'm going to put the link to that in the description box because you'll like his ideas. His ideas are talking about learning Spanish. They apply to learning English as well. So many students ask me this very question. Why am I having so much trouble with speaking? Why can't I figure out which verb tense to speak in? Why can't I remember what order to put words in? If you ask yourself a lot of questions like this and you do a lot of listening practice, then ask yourself another question. When you're listening, are you really listening and paying attention to the details, or are you just doing passive listening? Maybe you listen and you feel really good about yourself because you understood everything they said. So, wow, I'm really doing good at English. I understood that all. Why can't I speak? Well, casual listening like this certainly does help your mind become more adjusted to the sound of English and some other factors. So do it. Definitely it's good. But the fact is you have to go deeper. A common way of listening to podcasts is that people like to listen to podcasts while they're doing something else. Maybe while you do housework, maybe in the background while you're working, at your job, whatever it is, kind of like background noise. It really works well for sharpening your listening skills. And I know this for a fact because it worked for me, because many years ago I used to study German a lot, and I used to be pretty good with German. And I gained a remarkable proficiency in understanding spoken German by passively listening. For many years, I had a shortwave radio in my shop, and I would listen to the news on Deutsche Welle all day long on shortwave while I did my job doing other things that didn't have anything to do with language. It was kind of like background noise. But I can tell you, I did this for many years, and I found that over the course of quite a few years, it did help me with my German listening skills. And so I try to practice the same thing with Spanish today. I put a lot of stuff in the background. I listen to stuff while I'm working on whatever. I just listen to talking in the background. That's a good thing to do, but you have to go deeper than that if you're really going to advance and start to learn to speak fluently. A lot of Mexican students here today tell me that they put their favorite English language podcasts on in the car and they listen to them while they're driving. These activities are all good and they can be productive in many ways because having this on in the background, it helps your mind get conditioned to the sound of the language, its rhythm, its speed, its changes in tone, things like this. And it exposes you to a lot of vocabulary that you hear in some kind of a context that helps you to remember the vocabulary. And so, in general, it greatly increases your listening abilities. How does this relate to improving your speaking ability? Too many people seem to think that their speaking abilities are going to just improve automatically because they do a lot of listening. But they never really consider the quality of the listening effort. The truth is that the speed at which speaking fluency comes to you is proportional to how much conscious, dedicated effort you put into noting and remembering the details of what you're listening to. And these are details that often we're reluctant to spend time with because we got the main idea. We think we got the main idea, we got it. But you need to get past that reluctance. And when you get past that reluctance to think about and analyze the details, you'll begin to notice an improvement in your ability to speak naturally, smoothly, fluently. So what kind of details are we talking about? What do you need to focus on? When you listen to whatever you listen to, and it's only in the background, you're just doing passive hearing. You're not really listening. You're skipping over important things that you need to know and remember every time you need to speak. These are things like verb tenses, prepositions, words that go together, etc. I'll talk about that in a few minutes later on here. But anyway, I also got this idea for an example from the same video from Español con Juan. So let's imagine you're passively listening to a story in an audio format, and in the story, the narrator says this. This is a fictional piece of English podcast. This is my fictional example. As I was waiting on the next flight at the airport, I was bored. I decided to listen to some music. It really was a long wait until the next connection, and I was getting hungry. So I decided to get something to eat. And I looked in my wallet to see how much cash I still had. Now, if you're a beginning level or an intermediate level person, just listen to this story being read in the background, but you still understood 100% of it. You understood 100% of it, but you would still find it difficult to reproduce this story fluently. It's probably because you were just assimilating the story in your subconscious mind. You didn't catch the details. You didn't need the details, like the verb tenses, the prepositions, etc. Yet you understood it all. Because your brain can do this for you. Your subconscious mind can do this for you. Imagine what your brain hears before your subconscious mind puts the story together. If maybe you only caught a few words, but you still understood it. So I'm going to repeat the whole story one time. It's just a couple of paragraphs before I talk about what your mind probably heard. So here's the story. As I was waiting on the next flight in the airport, I was bored. I decided to listen to some music. It was really a long wait until the next connection, and I was getting hungry. So I decided to get something to eat. I looked in my wallet to see how much cash I still had. So here's what this person's mind probably collected from the story. I wait, next flight, airport, listen, music, later, wait, connection, hungry, decide, eat, look, money, wallet. So this person caught the key words, and the subconscious mind put them all together to create the main idea of the story without the use of any connecting words like prepositions, without thinking about anything like verb tense. The subconscious mind fills these things in for you. But so if your mind is still operating at a very basic level, and you're allowing your subconscious mind to do these things for you, your understanding is very good, but you can't put together the story yourself. So let's think about the problems that he might have. Here, I'll repeat again. Here's probably what he remembers. I wait, next flight, airport, listen, music, connection, later, hungry, decide, eat, look, money, wallet. And then someone says, okay, Tell me this story in English. Reproduce it yourself. So this person might have questions like these, like, how should I say, I waited or I was waiting? Which one is it? I was waiting in the flight or I was waiting on the flight? Which one is it? So I was listening music or was listening to music? I don't remember which one it is. And decide, what about decide? Was that past tense, present tense? Should I decide or should I say decided? And if it was past tense, which one do I use? How do I pronounce it? Do I look money? Do I look for money? Do I look at money? Which one's the right one? These are the kind of questions that you're going to have when you try to speak, because your listening skills are good, but your speaking skills are still undeveloped. In order to use listening practice to help us to learn speak more fluently, we have to listen to the details, and then we have to implant them deeply in our own subconscious mind in order to be able to use them ourselves when we speak. And so you will begin to notice an increase in your English fluency as your doubts about these kind of choices diminish. That is in contrast to just listening passively as you do something else. So if you do listen to podcasts passively, that's great, but take the time to listen to them again. The next time with intense focus. And pay attention to things like prepositions and the verbs that go with them. Think about the verb tenses. Identify the verb tenses as you listen and ask yourself, why is that tense being used here? And then whatever it is that you note and you figure out, take notes. Keep yourself a notebook. Keep a notebook in which you write down everything you need to remember. Not just vocabulary, but I mean also things like verbs and prepositions that go together, common irregular verb forms you might be having trouble to remember when you need them, remembering when and how to pronounce ed endings of regular verbs, all kinds of details like that. That's not all inclusive, but I mean really, whatever you know is important for you to know better, write it down. There's no rule about what you should write down except to write it down, because what's good for you is not necessarily good for the next person. But that's going to help you maintain what you're going to need to get out of your mind when it's needed at the moment you speak. Write things down more than once if you need to. The next time you encounter the same questions, write them down again and again and again if you need to, until it's automatic. Because what we're doing is training our subconscious mind to go get what we need without having to think about it when we speak. That's what creates fluency. You also can expose yourself to really so many important grammatical details by reading. Read a lot. And I would recommend it. If you don't like to read, make yourself learn to like to read, because that's really key. When you read, you're going to see the same word combinations, the same word order patterns, and you're going to see them repeated again and again and again. That's what drives them into your permanent memory. It's really an unfortunate thing that today's generation generally reads so much less fiction. Probably they never read fiction at all than people did in the past, because reading fiction is a wonderful tool for building fluency. And as you read, when you encounter a new word, pronounce it aloud, write it down, write an example of it in a sentence, read the sentence aloud if you can think of a sentence. These are all tricks, these are all techniques that help you record things permanently in your subconscious memory. And the rules of what works for one person may differ from another person, like I said, but all of these factors are going to help you to record more definitely in your mind the memory of what you need to be able to say immediately and automatically, with no hesitation, with no mistakes, at the time you need to use it. So, yes, in conclusion, this is all very, very time consuming, I know. But the fact is, it builds speaking fluency relatively fast. I could have said a lot more, but I like to keep the videos simple, free from flashy stuff. I'm not good at editing. So anyway, that's it for the subject. Thank you. See you again in another video really soon.